Hey everyone, welcome back to the 9th episode of my Music by the Month recap series. Once again, back reviewing another one of the songs I've released this year as part of the project. It is currently September, which is the 9th month, and yeah, we'll get straight into the project as usual. Have a look. Alright, so I went for something a little bit different as usual for this one here, and I sort of wanted a more less energetic and more sort of low down sort of feeling for this one here, and it's carrying on from the narrative where, if you remember from the end of the last song, it was sort of implied that this character maybe got caught by the police as they were running through the city. I sort of wanted this to be the process of them sort of breaking out of the prison that they're in and meeting their friend that they were looking for, and then sort of escaping and just seeing how it goes from there. So I used a lot of percussion in here, and it's sort of established a bit of a groove. And I had like the standard kick, hi-hats and snare, but then I had some of the just random percussion sounds that I found in FL, and I sort of built a groove around that as well. So with the groove, I sort of wanted it to feel like the character's sneaking around and just being very quiet almost, and not really drawing attention to themselves, so that they can sort of figure out what's going on whilst keep themselves safe by being quiet. So I had this bass line that sort of anyway, I sort of had this bass line that's sort of very groovy and very sneaky sounding, sort of plays, and then it sort of establishes a groove around that. So I'll just play the bit of the bass line there with sort of that percussive groove underneath. Yes, so as you can see, it's sort of very groovy and driven forward by that percussive beat there. And it also loops around quite well with just a little lick at the end. And I sort of wanted to have that repetitiveness of the groove to sort of play into it, and then add different elements on top. So the first section, where I sort of add something new with these very sort of ambient keyboard sound, and it's sort of this very soft keys with this sort of beeping sound in the background. And it's sort of meant to show the progress that this character's making. And with each one of these different sections, there's sort of this sound effect that I've created by combining these two here, of like a key being unlocked and then just this sort of bell sound. And I sort of wanted that to represent the progression of them slowly uncovering something else and then getting closer and closer to escaping. It sort of keeps going through there until the groove slightly changes a little bit, where the bass line is a lot more simpler from the more melodic one before. And I think that was the main idea I wanted to focus with sort of the musical ideas, is that have everything determined by the bass line. And if you notice that each part has a slightly different bass line, and it really changes the emotion and the pace of each section. There's sort of this smaller section to transition these two parts here, but then it moves on to this very sort of chilled out half-time section here with this piano sound playing these big chords with these fast melodies playing. And I sort of wanted it to be a point where this character has sort of found what they're looking for, which is their friend, and they're just sort of very confident, but they still aware of their surroundings, still very cautious. And I'll sort of play the groove just to get the idea of it, and just sort of hear the very calming nature of it, whilst there's still sort of a little bit of tension. But yeah. So just sort of those groove there. You might have noticed there was also an ambient sound that I added. It's a very sort of static, sort of gritty static sound, and it sort of builds up over this section, so it was a little bit hard to hear at the start, but towards the end it sort of builds up, becomes very prominent, until right at the end it takes over the whole sort of sound space that's there, and it sort of glitches out a bit, and then it cuts to the next groove, sort of maybe showing that they might have gone caught and then they're running away, or something has changed. And once again there's that lock and bell sound. I'll just play the end of it just there. Yeah, so it's quite an abrupt change once it sort of takes over and it cuts to that next groove. And there's this double time hi-hat pattern with a lot more percussive and melodic elements that come in all at once, and it sort of adds a lot of energy really quickly. A few things, there was this muted guitar rhythm that sort of adds to the percussive groove, and then there's this high-pitched guitar strums that sort of add to the tension a little bit more, as well as the bass line changing once again, to really have a new foundation for the section here. And it continues on until it sort of settles out a little bit, and a few of the elements are cut away for the last section, and I sort of wanted this to be a conclusion, so there's not as much, there's still the tension, but it feels controlled, and there's definitely a direction where this is going, until finally right at the end where these two characters have come together and they're moving forward to try to escape to see what's next. I sort of wanted it to be a very curious sound, but still sort of feel settled and like they know where they're going. And I did this by bringing back in a few of the elements to make it familiar, but also have a little bit of unknown by introducing some accidental notes, and it's sort of ending quite open without too much of a conclusion, but it's still satisfying. And I'll just play that there just to give the idea. You'll hear the keyboard elements from before, as well as a few different musical ideas that hadn't come in before. Yeah, so all of those elements come together to sort of conclude the end of it, and it's a very simple piece, I thought, but still a lot of variety within it, even though it, while sort of remaining as one piece with one sort of main idea, there's still lots of different elements that come together and make it interesting. Yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to say for that one. It's sort of just another piece of this larger narrative that I'm building up, and yeah, I guess we'll have to see where these characters ended up in next month's recap, and yeah, see you then.